Alright, I am going to show you how to replace elastic in a fitted serged diaper. Same idea with a turned, but we're only doing a serged today. So, get your seam ripper, and you're going to rip out a little tiny piece of the inside of the diaper, the velour. About 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch inside the casing from where it's been tacked down. Now you should have a little bitty hole. You can see the elastic in there. With your seam ripper, reach down, grab that elastic, put the seam ripper underneath it, and chop off that elastic. Now go to the other side of the diaper and do the same thing. Reach in, and now you're going to kind of work that elastic out. This elastic was from a recall that happened last May. In one wash, it just started disintegrating at the end. So you can even see where the elastic is just, I mean, this is dead. There's no stretch left. I don't know what happened with it, but I did contact the manufacturer and told them what happened, and they gave me my money back, but that doesn't fix the fact that I sent out 30 diapers that had horrific elastic in them. And then you'll do that for all of the other 2 legs. But right now we're just going to go ahead and finish up the waist, that way you see how to do it. Elastic is not in there anymore, so what you'll do is get either a large safety pin, if the casing is wide enough, which on most diapers I've found it's not usually wide enough to use an elastic threader. On this one it looks like we might be able to get away with it, but we'll just use a safety pin. I use 3/8 inch elastic, and what I do is I have my roll and I attach the safety pin to the end here, and then we feed it into where we ripped out all the way across the diaper. Out the other side. Now make sure your sewing machine has matching thread to match the velour and whatever color thread was used on the diaper when it was made. And I kind of stretch this part of the casing back and tuck it a little bit under my finger, because you're going to want to sew the new elastic down right where you rip that hole, so that it is just a little bit over from where it was sewn in. I sew elastic casings down twice, that way they have a little bit more secure for pulling and whatnot. Back and forth once, move it over just a smidge, and back and forth again. Trim your threads, take out that safety pin, and now what you'll do with this little tag, no, you don't want to cut it off, because if you cut it off, it'll pull back through. I lift up the casing a little bit and I tuck that elastic into the casing. There. And I will show you how to close that after we finish fitting the elastic and sewing it on this side. So you go to the other side and you pull that elastic tight, and then kind of stretch it. Feel where the natural extension of a diaper would be without any elastic in the casing, and that is where you want your elastic to be. You don't want it to be too tight, because then it doesn't stretch at all. And you don't want it to be too loose, because then it doesn't cinch up enough and it won't fit a smaller baby. So you just want it to stretch exactly the amount that the diaper would be laid out if there was no elastic inside it. And then you sew it down on this side. Trim and trim. You're going to want to give yourself a good 1/2 inch of a tape to tuck down inside that waistband or into the casing. Alright, we have fresh elastic, and if you're lazy like me and don't care, you can call it good. But if you want it to look nice and professional, or if you're doing it for a customer, you'll take a needle and thread. And just pull some of this thread out here. I double it over, and then I tie a little knot in the end. And honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing because I was never taught how to sew with needle and thread, so if anybody has any pointers for me, feel free to tell me. This is just what has always worked for me. Alright, so we have our thread, we have our needle, and you're going to hand stitch the casing closed. And you're going to pull that casing over so that the elastic that has been folded over inside is completely hidden inside the casing. I usually stitch it down about 5 times down, and then I re-stitch it to kind of seal it in. There are many different methods to replacing elastic in a fitted diaper. Some people just zigzag the elastic in and the casing closed at the same time, which is incredibly faster, but doesn't look quite as neat in the end because then you have random zigzags where the elastic casing is, and I don't like that. So I hand stitch them closed, which is not exactly the most exciting project, but as long as it looks good. Alright, and then you trim off your start threads, and then you trim off the end, and your casing, you can see a little bit there, but it looks like it was sewn with white thread to begin with, so that's the white that you see, but the blue part where I stitched it closed is hardly noticeable. So do it to the other side, and your elastic replacement's done.